It's the Texas weather discussion video for Friday, the 30th of November, the last day of November. I'm Donovan Neal. Of course, as you all know, we have the potential for some strong to severe storms later this afternoon and evening over parts of north central Texas. What's the overall timing of this thing, and how severe will these storms be? Hopefully, we'll be able to answer all of your potential concerns and questions. So, first, as we always do, let's start with our upper air chart at 500 millibars. This is our height analysis at around 18 to 20,000 feet off the ground. You can see we have, at that time, we had a little bit of a trough, basically digging down around Southern California. That's basically moving on to the southeast with time. And of course, the farther south we can get this thing, the more dynamic support we have for some stronger to severe thunderstorms later this afternoon and evening. But of course, the temperatures earlier this morning, as of 4:45, are actually feels like a fall day if you go outside literally right now. Mostly in the mid to upper 60s, with some places in the 50s. The farther west you go, with some places in the 40s. Some of the naturally cooler spots in the 40s, and we'll actually be in the mid to upper 70s today, with a little bit of a cloudy sky. We want that cloudy sky because as soon as we can get some breaks in the sunshine, that the more instability we have for storms to tap onto. Around the nation, of course, the coldest air remains up north when they're starting their day in the 20s, but like I've said, not as cold as in recent weeks. On the watch warning map, very busy up in the north. We have there where they're gearing up for another winter storm for parts of Nebraska and parts of the Dakotas, where they have the winter storm warnings in effect. Or surrounding that, they have winter weather advisories in effect for those areas, and surrounding that, dense fog advisories widespread across the Midwest and parts of the central and high plains as well. Down here in Texas, we remain quiet in the time being, except we have a few wind advisories and high wind warnings in effect for parts of the western country and in the northeastern part of the United States. So let's focus on the convective outlooks for today. We have an enhanced risk. Obviously, we have that risk of severe weather for that encompasses all of North Texas, is encompassed with at least some risk of severe weather. But the enhanced risk of severe weather includes basically areas to the east of for Dallas and points to the east. Of course, that includes Canton, Paris, Texarkana, Longview, Shreveport, and some of those adjacent areas in near the Arklatex region. And of course, that's where the highest severe weather risk is. But down here, closer to home, we are under the Category 2 out of 5 risk, which is the standard slight risk of severe storms. This is the basic risk of severe storms. This does include the DFW Metro, and points to the east here, Mineral Wells, Denton, and Plano, and parts of Sherman, and some of those adjacent areas near Corsicana, and of course Waxahachie as well, and Lufkin. And even surrounding that, we have that marginal risk of severe storms off to the east of North Texas, near Wichita Falls, Waco, just to the north of Houston, and just to the north of Austin. And of course, we'll be able to detail our exact our exact risk of seeing some significant severe storms. And of course, this is the tornado probabilities off of the Storm Prediction Center's page. You can see we have around that in that Arklatex region, just to the north of Shreveport near Texarkana and Paris, we have that 10% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of any given point within that region. And because it's hatched, means we could see one or two strong tornadoes within that 10% zone. This is a detail I highlighted in my blog yesterday, and of course that's starting to come into fruition. But over here, closer to home in the DFW Metroplex, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of tornadoes or two with those developing storms here. And of course, on day 2, which is tomorrow, we have that standard slight risk in effect for parts of the deep south, includes Alabama, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, but it does not include any of Texas. We remain mostly dry tomorrow, which should be a very beautiful day tomorrow. Here's the average rainfall for the next 7 days, valid through Friday morning of next week. Heaviest totals remain off to the east near the Gulf Coast, near the Florida coast. And down here, amounts of half an inch or greater is expected for parts of North Texas. And again, that's anything that we see today and anything that we see next week with an increasing widespread rain risk throughout the entire state. We'll get to that in just a second. But this is the last time you will see this graphic until June 1st of 2019. The 2018 Atlantic hurricane season officially ends today, and the Atlantic basin remains officially quiet for the next 48 hours. That's the last time you'll hear me say that until June 1st of 2019. So let's go on to the model output. This is the 06Z run that the GFS fell this afternoon at noon at 500 millibars. This is the upper air look around 18 to 20,000 feet off the ground. Like I've said before, we have that troughing off to the west of us, and the farther south we can get that thing, the more the dynamic support we have. And down here, this doesn't look like much off of the GFS, but of course that's because this is the look at noon. This is when the storms are just now developing off to the east of Dallas. But let's go on to the convective the mesoscale models. Um, this is this is the convective outlook. This is the convective composite reflectivity at around 9 o'clock, not 8 to 9 o'clock this evening, coming off the HRRR model, the HRRR. And actually, it's showing a little bit of a substantial line of semi-discrete supercells for coming through the DFW metroplex and points to the south. And if that were to verify, we would have more of a hail and a tornado risk if this were to come into fruition. But let's take a look at some of the parameters. This is the surface-based CAPE this is the surface-based CAPE at the same time, and you can see that we have estimated CAPE values of around 2,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram in that same area for the Dallas metro. And points to the east. And of course, with this being our late severe weather season, we don't need, it usually doesn't take these robust CAPE values of around 4,000, 5,000 joules per kilogram to get a good severe weather episode going. So, obviously, these are values that we still need to pay attention and we still need to keep our heads up on. But let's take a look at our bulk shear values again at the same time. You can see near the dry line, you can see the bulk shear values in North Texas. Parts of North Texas exceed around 45 to 55 to around 60 knots in some places. And of course, if that were to verify, of course, we would see more. We would have a damaging wind and a tornado risk at that point. Um, of course, this is something that's been indicated as of yesterday night, and of course that looks like it's coming into fruition. So we do have to pay attention for the risk of a few isolated tornadoes, as shear values does look like that. Here's the lapse rate values, and of course this is peaking up around 7.5 to 8 to maybe around 8.5 in some places in North Texas. And again, it only takes a 7 to get some large hail going, but this is showing a 7.5 and 8. So large hail will not be out of the question with these storms, especially with the semi-discrete storms. But let's look at the run-to-run maximum updraft helicity values. This is the most likely path the storms will take this evening, and this basically runs out all the way through Saturday afternoon, because of course this is when everything's all done. So this is basically showing storms most likely take a northeasterly path once they develop, but in Oklahoma they took more of a northerly path as they develop. But for North Texas, the storms will most likely move more to the northeast rather than the north. They'll move more to the northeast towards Arkansas at that point. But let's take a look at the STP value, the significant tornado parameter. And you can see we have some very robust values around the Dallas, Texas. We're showing STP values peaking up at around 4, 4.5. Don't see any 5s, but we see around 4, 4.5s from the maximum values. But we see a lot of 3s evolve for parts of North Texas when that line of semi-discrete thunderstorms come through. And of course, it only takes of STP values of 1 to get to squeeze out a tornado. But we're seeing values of 3 or 4, which means that we could see a few tornadoes, 1 or 2 of which could actually be strong if this were to verify. But let's take a look at a sounding coming off of the same model. Coming off the same model near the DFW Metroplex, you can see we have most unstable CAPE around 1600 joules per kilogram. We have sufficient shear of around 35 knots, which is sufficient for to get some severe storms going. And of course, we have some good directional shear changing of the wind with altitude. We have also a very round hodograph as we approach the warm sector. An effective layer STP, the significant tornado parameter, is peaking out around 2.5, which is obviously still significant. And a possible hazard type is listed as a potential tornado risk. So a lot of things to obviously come into play here, but the main general consensus here is that all modes of severe weather will be possible, including the potential for tornadoes, 1 or 2 which could actually be on the strong side. I wouldn't be surprised of that at all. But the main risk for severe weather for North Texas, the DFW Metroplex will mostly come at around I'd say around a window around 6 to 10 p.m. and then of course even later for areas off to the east. And of course we don't want to see sunshine today. Um, we don't want to see sunshine today because that'll only increase the risk of some severe weather later this afternoon and evening. So the bottom line is make sure as you head out the door have a plan in place, know when to receive, know that. Make sure you have a plan in place so you know where and when to get severe weather warnings when they're most critical. And also make sure you know where your safe place is in your home, and make sure you have all the necessary. I mean, we have a detailed list of what to do during a severe weather preparedness tab. We have a severe weather preparedness tab on our website. You can go and look at that as well. But as we get into Saturday, the first day of December, which is the first day of meteorological winter, you can see North Texas remains dry for the most part. All of Texas remains dry for the north part. Very beautiful day tomorrow. Highs mostly in the low 70s. And here's Sunday. Again, same thing. Mostly sunny skies. Highs mostly in the mid 60s. But then a cold front comes through early Monday morning. And of course, that will mean temperatures of course, cooler temperatures as we head throughout the week. Highs mostly in the mid 50s, and then Tuesday we cool down even more with a 1030 millibar high in our area. Highs mostly in the upper 40s, with lows starting in the low 30s. And here's Wednesday, pretty much the same deal. Upper highs still in our area. Highs around 50 degrees with lows down into the low 30s to the upper 20s. Same thing on Thursday. In a week from today, Friday, the 7th day of December, we have troughing and near the northeastern United States. We have a little bit of a short wave off to the west, and of course that short wave may actually bring our next widespread chances of showers and thunderstorms for pretty much statewide for next Friday. And of course, with this in mind, a lot of things can and will change, but this has been indicated by the GFS for a couple of days now. So we'll mention a chance of some scattered showers and thunderstorms for the the DFW metro, but we'll have to increase those chances as we get closer to the day. But let's go out 10 days. This is Monday, the 10th of December. We have troughing we have troughing basically here. And surprisingly enough, we still stay dry. But you can see for the numbers for the next 15 days coming off the GFS ensemble, highs mostly very mild as we head into today and into the weekend. But then as we head into Monday, the 3rd of December, you can see we have temperatures. As soon as we hit December, temperatures drop into the mid 40s, mid 50 area. Mid 40s, mid 50s areas as we head into mid December. And lows obviously below freezing, lows mostly in the 30s for most spots as well. That's it for the Texas weather discussion video for today. I'll monitor in the blog. My next video will be posted at around 7 a.m. Monday morning. If you can't catch your local TV stations this afternoon at 4, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend and Godspeed.